0-2 pitch. Swing and a miss. Struck him out. The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
Line it up, Adrian Neville, and here it comes. Hoover kick, connects.
Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of Game Day. We are back here today covering the divisional round of the NFL. But before we get into that, one thing I just quickly want to say is that as the NFL season is coming to a wrap soon, obviously basketball is going on, baseball will be starting up, and then obviously free agency and the draft will happen, which you can expect me to cover that. I think I covered the Eagles draft last year in a video where I was just talking about the future of all Philly sports, but obviously I'll be covering that stuff. I may sporadically cover, certain Sixers basketball games, but you'll obviously see more definite coverage come playoff time just because that's easier, It's kind of harder, It's like with baseball. It's like I would hop in when there was like a really good game or two, and I'll probably do something like that. But also, I'm making a comeback to the sports section. If you want to call them the video essays, about different things in sports. I know when I was mainly doing it, it was mainly pertaining to wrestling. I want to see if there's maybe some topics within football, basketball, baseball, that I can get knowledgeable and do a video essay type situation on. I don't know, I really love doing those, and I really love doing them for the wrestling side because it's real fun to just kind of sit there and hear the whole story, and I love watching them whenever I see. They're hard to find on YouTube sometimes. Like I don't know what to specifically search for, but it's hard to find a lot of different wrestling like video essays. I've seen a couple of good ones. Like I saw a good one about the case for Daniel Bryan or Bryan Danielson being the GOAT in wrestling. There's obviously, it's not much of a video essay because it's not someone breaking down the whole story, but that video entailing the entire feud between MJF and CM Punk was real good. I love finding videos like that, and I love making them because, it's just cool to look through, the history and look all the way from beginning, middle to end of a story that happened in wrestling. And it's cool, and it's really an underutilized medium because it's how you can get people caught up real quickly on certain acts, like if right now if someone who's never seen wrestling in the past like 10 years hops into AEW and is like, well, who is MJF? Who is The Acclaimed? Who is Jamie Hayter? Obviously they can learn who they are by watching the weekly product, but if they want to learn more about them, they got to go researching. And instead of just reading different articles and even watching certain highlight matches, you get this cool little thing where people can watch a little video essay on the fact, But, yeah, just wanted to quickly preface and say that. But back to the main topic, the divisional round. We started off with the Saturday games being the Jacksonville Jaguars facing off against the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously at Arrowhead. The whole story going into this one was, Trevor Lawrence has never lost a game on Saturday. Funny enough, one of my friends messaged me about that. He was like, oh yeah, Trevor Lawrence has never lost on Saturday. I'm like, oh yeah, that's so true, except today's going to be the difference. And ended up being right. Now, the Jaguars put up as, good of an effort as they could. Trevor Lawrence, 217 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Travis Etienne, 62 yards and a touchdown rushing. Receiving wise, we had Christian Kirk 7 and 52 with a touchdown. I know he had a pretty bad drop that like he was getting a lot of flack for on social media that I saw. What's it called? You had Jamal Agnew having that that terrible fumble like in the red zone. I think it was in the fourth quarter. Really tough to see that, especially just seeing how he lost that ball. Is like, man, it's tough, but that's something you got to prioritize. It's something the Eagles started prioritizing earlier in the season. Zay Jones, 83 yards. Pretty good game from them, but Mahomes comes out 195 yards, 2 touchdowns, goes out the game with an injury, and Chad Henne has to come in, and he throws a touchdown, and keeps them in this. But yeah, that Patrick Mahomes, man, the Chiefs need to be a little bit worried. I think right now, like, the word is that, like, oh, there's nothing too much to worry about, but it's pretty scary, to see that happen. Like, oh man, you got to be careful, man. You got to be mindful of a lot of those injuries. Rushing, Isaiah Pacheco had 95 yards. This guy has definitely filled a vast hole in the Chiefs offense, and that was always, the Chiefs offense never really needed a running back, if you want to say, at least when they had Tyreek Hill, because, when you have Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, it's like, teams are going to be so focused, you don't need a great running back there. It's like, the lanes are going to be open because they're going to be so worried about having to guard Kelce and Hill downfield. But once Hill got traded away, like, obviously the big concern became wide receiver, but also it's like, well, now you need to make sure your offense is more dynamic. It isn't one-dimensional, And Isaiah Pacheco has really filled that role. He showed out in this game, 95 yards on the season. He's a rookie too, which is crazy. And where did they draft him in? They drafted him in the 7th round, 251st overall pick. On the season, he has 830 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns. Real impressive stuff. The receiving game, how much does he have on the year? He only has about 130, but, at least it shows he can get involved in that side. But, he's done a real good job of filling in a running back role. Pretty much great games all around. There have been a couple, solid running back for what this offense requires out of him. And he's been really showing out. On the receiving end, Travis Kelce obviously taking over 14 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. And the rest of the receivers just basically did what was required of them. Kadarius Toney, 36 yards. Juju, 29 yards. Again, it's not the most exciting receiving room, but when you have Travis Kelce, it's like you don't really have to worry too much about the receiving room. And when you have Mahomes at quarterback, not like you need to worry too much. I know everyone was worried when Tyreek Hill got traded. We're like, oh man, how is Mahomes' game gonna suffer? And it's crazy because you look at other quarterbacks around the league. You look at Josh Allen, the way he was playing before he got a big time receiver in Stephon Diggs. Jalen Hurts before he got A.J. Brown, and before Devontae Smith's only in his second year, but before that development happened there, and his only real weapon was rookie Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert, top 10, at this point in time, top 5, actually maybe potentially even top 3 tight end in the league. No bias there, just straight facts. Some other quarterbacks that I'm trying to think of off the top of my head. Tua before he got Tyreek Hill, and again Jalen Waddle was his rookie. Very similar situation between him and Hurts. It's funny, they get a big time receiver, and then they have a receiver who had a good rookie year and now is coming into their own sophomore year. We can't say Daniel Jones yet because that man has yet to get true number 1 receiver. They thought it was Kenny Golladay, paid him all that money, only got 1 receiving touchdown in the past 3 years, I want to say. Could be wrong on that, but he's been non-existent. Man, you look at them and you see how much of a leap they took by getting that premium receiver. Then you look at the case of Mahomes, and it's like the complete opposite. Obviously, he still has a very elite tight end in Travis Kelce, arguably the best tight end in football. Probably not even arguable at this point, especially because of the way the Niners use George Kittle, and he doesn't get to have games like this anymore, but I think it's arguable. It's not arguable that Travis Kelce is the best tight end in the game, and he obviously still has that, But seeing as how he lost his big-time number one wide receiver in Tyreek Hill, everyone was like, oh, man, Mahomes' stats are going to drop. Mahomes isn't going to be that good. He's going to struggle. And I remember, like, early in the season, or actually not even early in the season, I mean, there was a couple games where, like, it wasn't that great, but, like, he basically proved from the get-go, what struggles am I going to have, you know? He basically showed, I don't need no big-time receiver. I'm built different than some of these other teams. Now, obviously, later down the line, he might need a receiver who, you know, is consistent and can have those big games. But he started off the season with a 5-touchdown game, you know. And then throughout this season, I don't think he came close against the Raiders. But he's never thrown below 200 yards on the season. He did have 195 yards in this game, so he didn't eclipse the 200 yard mark. But the rest of the season, never dropped below 200 yards. Had a 5-touchdown game to start off the year. Had a 4-touchdown game against Las Vegas in Week 5. Another 4-touchdown game against Jacksonville earlier in the year. You know, 3 touchdowns against Denver. 3 touchdowns against, is that Tampa? I think that's Tampa. Yeah. You know. He basically said, give me whatever receivers you got, and I'll make the best of it. And then he goes out, and on this year, what do he have? 5,250 yards, 41 touchdowns, and only 12 interceptions. Basically an MVP-type season. Has no issues doing that. You know, that it's crazy to me, you know, that he's just able to do that type of stuff with such a little help around him. And then, you know, defensively, you know, somewhat low scoring game, but not really, but you know, great game overall. You know, it was a close one. There was chances that Jacksonville had, but you know, I'm pretty sure even at one point they were leading, but you know, is what it is. Skipping over the second Saturday game because you know that's obviously always going to be the main event. We got the Bills and the Bengals. Oh man. Before this game, all we were hearing about is the Bills and Chiefs fan base have started like ordering their tickets for the neutral site game and all this, and how they were, you know, going to get tickets for the neutral site game that was going to take place in Atlanta. Basically, everyone was writing off the Bengals for whatever reason, and the Bengals come out and say, yeah, no, we're going to prove that, you know, there's going to be no need for no neutral site. They went out and scored 14 in the first, held Buffalo to 0, and never once gave up the lead. They got 3 in the second. Buffalo scored a touchdown, but it's still 17-7. Then, boom, they get 24 points when they start the third, 24-10. Field goal in the final fourth quarter, 27-10 to finish off the game. Sorry, I just finished eating, so I'm trying not to make any noises here on the podcast. Joe Burrow, 242 yards, 2 touchdowns. Impressive game from him. Joe Mixon, 105 yards, 1 touchdown. Impressive game from him. Jamar Chase, 61 yards and a touchdown. Hayden Hurst, 59 yards and a touchdown. Defensively, I know I saw a lot about the Bengals defense coming up, you know. Cam Taylor-Britt, 1 interception. Let's see, the sacks. Von Bell got a sack. Wasn't really too heavy, like in the rush game. Both teams only had about a sack each, but what's it called? Bengals held, you know. They basically, how would you put it? They basically held everyone in check and made sure that, you know, there was no flashy stat lines. Josh Allen, 265 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. Nothing from the run game, and that's evident by the fact that Josh Allen threw the ball 42 times. I've said it since like 2 seasons ago that the Bills needed to invest in a running back room. I was part of the few that seriously thought they were going to trade for Saquon last offseason, you know. And I was like, oh man, Saquon on that offense could do wonders, you know, especially because he won't have to deal with the workload, you know, because the Bills will still have guys like Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis to throw to. But they haven't made that investment. I know it's kind of tough to make investments in running backs, but when your quarterback's throwing the ball 42 times and you could just never get it going, you only had, 19 attempts at trying to rush, and 8 of them came from your quarterback, and he was your leading rusher only by 2 yards, Man, I mean, he did have the touchdown rushing, but, still, it's you can't expect Josh Allen to do everything, and that leads to frustration with the rest of the team. Dawson Knox, 65 yards. Stephon Diggs was targeted 10 times, only got 4 catches for 35 yards. Very tough game for him, Gabe Davis only had 34 yards. Cole Beasley, 33. Khalil Shakir had 40, It just wasn't the best game from Buffalo, They got held in check on all aspects of offense pretty much, They, you look at a lot of those receiving numbers, oh man, those are pretty good, not good, but decent from some of them. But it's when you look at the amount of times the ball was thrown to some of those guys, and the fact that they just couldn't deliver at some points. It's just a real tough game on Buffalo's part. Was missing that pass rush. Like I said, they only got 1 sack out of Matt Milano, and the rest of the team nothing. You're just wondering what it would have been like if Von Miller was there to help. It's just a tough game, and it's a tough loss for Buffalo as they try and figure out what they're going to do. A lot of people are already quickly writing off Stephon Diggs as wanting to leave or to trade him away because of his social media antics, if you want to call him. But it's just a guy frustrated with a loss, and obviously a lot of people are going to be like, oh, well, you don't take it to social media, but it's not like he's throwing anyone under the bus from what I've seen so far. Obviously maybe there could be some things that I haven't seen yet from him that he said, but it just seems like he's being real frustrated with the loss, and he seems real angry at the fact that people are trying to twist and create these narratives out of it, there was that clip of I guess him and Josh Allen getting into it on the sideline, and he was basically saying, what, you want me to be happy that we're losing, that we're not having that connection on the field? You want me to be content with the fact that we lost another playoff game and all that? It's and people are using clips of going oh, look at how him and Josh Allen used to be, and it's one game, one clip, and yeah, you could use the same excuse to Stephon Diggs and be come on, it's only one game, you can't complain, but it's a playoff game. And it's their 3rd playoffs in a row that that they suffer heartbreak, and lose. And not only that, they're losing before the championship game. This is still the divisional, So you just gotta feel for these guys, It's just that passion coming on, and the fact that and I saw someone bringing it up too. Is their Super Bowl window closing? Because the Chiefs aren't slowing down soon. Patrick Mahomes, like I said, just had an MVP-like season, with basically no true number 1 receiver on his team, and all he had was Kelsey for the most part, The Bengals aren't slowing down soon. They got Burrow and Chase and Mixon and Higgins for so many years, They aren't going to be slowing down. A bunch of other teams are on the rise in the AFC, like Jacksonville, like Miami, the Chargers. Yeah, you could say the Chargers, I guess, If the Broncos actually figure things out with Russell Wilson, you're obviously always going to have competition between the Steelers and the Ravens. The Jets were pretty close to making the playoffs if they get a great quarterback with them. It's yeah, maybe that it could be an overreaction. Just because it's not to say that the Bills won't be great with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs in them, but their window for a Super Bowl is getting super tough. And I'll speak on something similar to that in our final game, but we get to the final game of the week before we cover, obviously, the main event. The Niners taking on the Cowboys. Classic rivalry, at least playoff rivalry between these two teams. A lot at stake. Wasn't the most entertaining game, Brock Purdy, 214 yards, no touchdowns or interceptions. Elijah Mitchell, 51 yards. Christian McCaffrey, 35 yards rushing and a touchdown. Deebo Samuel, 45 receiving yards. George Kittle, funny enough, I said, he doesn't get to have those games that much, but he did have 5 catches for 95 yards. Again, decent. And then, had the Cowboys. Dak, 206 yards and a touchdown. 2 interceptions. Not the game you want to see out of your quarterback that you're paying so much money for. The rushing game just didn't get it going. 10 carries for 26 yards by Zeke. 22 yards off of 6 carries for Tony Pollard, who went out with a broken leg, I believe. Tough situation to see there. Really, really just tough. CeeDee Lamb had 117 yards on 10 catches, which was really impressive, but the rest of the team wasn't much going. Dalton Schultz, 5 for 27, but he was targeted 10 times, he did have the touchdown. Noah Brown only had 21 yards. T.Y. Hilton only had 15. Not much going there for him, And then defensively, the Cowboys had 2 sacks, no picks. But of course, Fred Warner had the pick. Lenore had a pick. Hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And then only 1 sack for the Niners, but they pretty much did everything to hold them in check. This was the game I was watching as well, and I was like, man, they're just holding this team in check. They're not letting them get anything. So many times Dallas had to punt the ball. There really just wasn't much they could get going. And yeah, it was a boring game, but the Niners came out on top, as many expected, except for Cowboy fans who always claim it's their year. And all I can really say is, what the heck was that last play? That's 2 years in a row. That's 2 years in a row. And, oh man, I could not imagine being a Cowboys fan. To see your season end last year because your quarterback runs the ball when you have no timeouts and then forgets to give the ball to the refs so that they could properly line it up and give you a shot, and thus time ends and expires because of that baffling play. And then for this year, season on the line again, and your decision is to put Ezekiel Elliott at center with no one else and have everyone else line up all over the field, snap it to Dak and have him just throw a curl route, and the receiver immediately gets tackled, and so they can't even do no laterals or nothing like that. Like, I heard someone trying to give a BS explanation of, Zeke was supposed to snap the ball, not block, essentially. They throw the ball, the guy catches it, and then laterals it back to Zeke, and everyone's like, if that was the play, your coach, your offensive coordinator, whoever drew that up, needs to be fired and never coach an NFL game again, because why would you pitch it back to Zeke when he isn't a burst running back, He's a power back. You really want to lateral it back to him and what? Expect him to get out of bounds somehow and get you an extra play? Or expect him to just run all over and perform some type of lateral miracle? Like, absolutely embarrassing from the Cowboys, honestly. Like, all that work this season, and that's what you do? That is the best you throw out? I have no words. But let's end on a good note. Let's end on an absolute showcase. 5 years on from when in the championship game we beat the Vikings 38-7. The Philadelphia Eagles come out on Saturday to face off against the New York Giants and beat them 38-7. And not once in this game did things look close. Honestly, it's a bit baffling. I get it. They aren't as enticing matchups, seeing as they're the number 1 seeds playing very low seeds. But the fact that the 1 seeds in Kansas City and Philadelphia were given the Saturday games, kind of disrespectful. But I understand. Cincy, Buffalo, Dallas, San Francisco sells you more. And they were closer games. You could probably switch Cincy and Buffalo with Jacksonville and Kansas City. But, Niners, Dallas was closer. But, yeah, absolute masterclass from the Eagles here. Jalen Hurts, 154 yards, 2 touchdowns. I know people are going to let him, but man, he didn't throw that much. But then also, look, 34 yards and a touchdown rushing. He didn't rush that much either, and that's because, hey, by the time the second half came around, man, he didn't need to do anything, you know? He got his licks in, showed that, you know, he's healthy. Kenneth Gainwell went off 112 yards and a touchdown. Miles Sanders 90 yards and a touchdown. No touchdown for Miles Sanders, sorry. 32 yards and a touchdown for Boston Scott. Giant Slayer coming in. And funny enough, they probably game planned so hard for Boston Scott, and then they were like, who the hell is Kenneth Gainwell and Miles Sanders? Why the heck are they running for almost a combined 200 yards on us, you know? Actually, it was a combined like 200-something yards. Absolute impressive game from those two, and, you know, Boston Scott as well. Devontae Smith, 61 catches on the day, or 61 catches, oh my gosh, imagine. 61 yards on 6 catches on the day, and a touchdown. Dallas Goedert, 58-1 on the day. AJ Brown, 22. I heard there was apparently issues with like a hamstring potentially being tweaked, so they pulled him early, especially when they saw they were up early and were like, just relax. You know, there was clips of him on the sideline, you know, saying, "Oh, I'm good," but it's like, relax, man. Don't want to agitate anything. We'll keep you healthy for the conference game where you can go off, you know. Impressive game from them. And then the Giants, oh man, where did the dog go? They don't got that dog in them. They froze, they disappeared, you know, whatever you want to say. 135 yards from Daniel Jones, 1 interception. I believe that interception came like very early on, I want to say, you know. Kind of set the tone. Saquon only got about 61 yards on the day, couldn't get much going. Matt Breida, 23 and a touchdown. Receiving, Richie James had 51 yards, but outside of that, 17 from Marcus Johnson, 16 from Lawrence Cager. Nothing else from your receiving core. Just absolutely shut down like a game of Smite, you know. Nothing they could get going. They got 1 sack from Xavier McKinney, but that's nothing compared to the 1 sack from Brandon Graham, 1 sack from Fletcher Cox, 1.5 sacks from Josh Sweat, and 1.5 sacks from Hassan Reddick. One of the most impressive fleeces Howie Roseman has ever pulled off is the fact of getting Hassan Reddick, who's like a top 10 edge rusher in this league and probably top 5 edge rusher in the NFC, and is like, he got him on such a cheap deal for 3 years to be here with Philly. Absolute monster production from him. I'm glad Gannon has found, you know, the spot and finally figured out this guy needs to be rushing the quarterback, you know, none of this out in coverage. And the funniest play of the game, James Bradbury. I told my dad at the start, James Bradbury's going to get a pick and we're going to be able to clown the Giants for cutting him. And what happens? He gets a pick on Daniel Jones. Absolutely hilarious. And not only that, he shut down any of the receivers that were on them. There was the play where the receiver caught it for the first down and Bradbury went and tackled him so hard that he bobbled the ball and thus made forward progression not a thing. Tackled him behind the first down marker and made it a 4th down instead. Absolutely insane play. It breaks my heart that we're likely not going to be able to bring him back. And, you know, for the explanation to that for people, the Eagles have about like, I want to say 16 free agents this offseason. 16, including needing an extension for Jalen Hurts, and the receivers being Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, I believe. Who else? I believe Fletcher Cox is a free agent after this. Hassan Reddick, I know, is a free agent. James Bradbury is a free agent. Marcus Epps is a free agent. But Reed Blankenship has showed out since Chauncey Gardner-Johnson went down. So he probably will be the replacement for Marcus Epps going forward. And speaking of which, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, I believe, is a free agent after this and needs a new contract. I think both TJ Edwards and Kaiser White are free agents after this season. Obviously, you can sign one of those guys back, and start Kubbi Dean hopefully finally next season, you know, to fill that role. I hope it should have been in this game. but if next week, not saying this is my prediction, but like if the Eagles really start blowing out the Niners next week, I would say throw Nakobe Dean in more just so we can see what we have, so that we know for sure whether to pick and choose between Edwards and Kaiser White, and know that we can throw him in as that second linebacker spot, But yeah, we have a ton of free agents, and and a quarterback that we need to pay. And the toughest part and the annoying part is that, again, you never know when your career can end, so these guys got to get the most money they can. But when quarterbacks sign these big old extension and big contracts, teams fall off, We signed Carson Wentz to a big old extension, and this is our first year ever since, like 2018 that we've had a Super Bowl contending roster that can get to that point, We had to go through a tough retooling and rebuilding period because of that huge contract of his, And so it's like, I don't know, it's going to be tough with this whole Jalen Hurts situation. And then, I don't know, my predictions are we're going to do what Howie Roseman does best, and that's utilize the draft best to replace pieces. Probably, get some more defensive linemen and corners in this upcoming draft. Like I said, probably sign one of TJ Edwards or Kaiser White back and start Nakobe Dean opposite. Sadly, I think Fletcher Cox either goes or comes back on a team-friendly deal. Hassan Reddick is likely out of here, and Jordan Davis, and even like, what's it called? Wait, did I say Hassan Reddick right now? That's not who I meant. Javon Hargrave, who, man, sorry, I got the names confused. Javon Hargrave is the one that is a free agent as well. The free agent defensive tackle with Fletcher Cox. Those are the two. My bad. Oh my gosh. I was saying all that and I realized I had the wrong guy. Yeah. Javon Hargrave is the one that will probably walk to a line with Fletcher Cox. Fletcher Cox, I could see more than likely coming back on a team-friendly deal because he's always been that guy. We saw last offseason, they cut him and we're like, oh my gosh, Fletcher Cox is leaving. And then, no, he just got cut from his salary so that he could negotiate a team-friendly deal. More than likely we'll do that. Brandon Graham might retire, but he also might just sign back another team-friendly deal. But Javon Hargrave is likely the one that is going out, potentially Fletcher Cox too, but again, that one's more. But this is the one I'm more likely on. Javon Hargrave's probably leaving with Jordan Davis and Milton Williams filling in his role. Like I said, Marcus Epps can probably walk because we got Reed Blankenship. And the likely option, extend Jalen Hurts, sign Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to that long-term extension because, he's younger and, he's more versatile in a way. And, sadly, Bradbury's getting up there in age. And the one thing, too, is that when it comes to James Bradbury and Miles Sanders, do I want them to stay in Philly? Yes. Do I expect them to? No, because they're going to be given the absolute bag this offseason, Teams are going to see their production and be like, hey, we know you guys want to stay in Philly, but what if we throw you these big old market level contracts, for you when Philly can't afford to give you that, So, sadly, I think that's what's going to happen this offseason. And I didn't talk much about the game, but, impressive play from this entire team. That Dallas Goedert touchdown pass. I missed it because I went to go pee, and I was like, man, I went to pee for 2 seconds and missed it. That Devontae Smith touchdown pass was so beautiful, especially with A.J. Brown on the blocking. Boston Scott obviously got his. Jalen Hurts got his rushing touchdown. Wait, did he actually? Oh, yeah, he did. I did. And that Kenneth Gainwell touchdown was real funny to see, just get that at the very last second. And a lot of people would have been like, oh, just kneel it, kill the clock out. No, this is a divisional game. You got to get yours at any point and send a message that you aren't playing around. And so we go next week to the conference games, rematch, Kansas City versus Cincy. Honestly, it's a tough one, man. That is a tough one. I think Mahomes is just too unstoppable right now. Like, nothing's shown any signs of being able to slow him down. And I don't think Cincy has the pieces defensively too. They have the pieces offensively to keep up with them. But defensively, I don't know. I don't think they can, especially because I think their number one corner is out. And I don't think they have anyone on that roster other than maybe Von Bell that could really keep up with Jason Kelsey all that much, you know? Like, I mean, there's Jesse Bates too. Von Bell and Jesse Bates could do it, but I don't know. I don't think they got that pass rush in them, you know? Especially seeing as last week against Buffalo, they didn't have much to do against them. I think Kansas City takes that one. And Eagles, Niners. You can claim bias all you want, but I do think the Eagles are going to pull this one off. You know, it's going to be... It could be close, but I also just have a feeling in me that it could be a trap game. You know, we could go into this too optimistic and be caught off guard, you know, and not be able to stop the screen passes that work so well. Didn't work so well when Dallas had them figured out this game, which is something Philly should be looking at very closely, is how Dallas minimized the screenplay for Dallas and kind of forced Brock Purdy to expand his game, you know. But I think it's very much like a Cooper Rush situation. You know, it's no disrespect to Brock Purdy. This man was the last pick in the draft, you know. He has had to come in and do what no one from his position should ever have to do, and that's lead this team to a Super Bowl. But I just don't think at this current moment, because he's still a rookie, I don't think he has enough to overcome this Philadelphia Eagles team. And you can claim it's bias, but honestly, comparing the two, this Philadelphia Eagles team might might have the edge over that 2017-2018 team talent-wise. Now, 2017-2018, I would almost want to argue they were a bit deeper in depth just because of the fact that that was the storyline all that season. Next man up whenever injuries happen. But that's the difference between that team and this team. Why I say I think they're the better talented and more talented team. This team is fully healthy for the most part. They're missing Avonte Maddox, but they're fully healthy for the most part. You know, they have the depth while still being healthy. You know, they don't have to bring in the depth because some guy goes down. They have the depth to bring in people in case someone goes down. You know, but when everyone is healthy, you're dealing with a Jalen Hurts that can throw and run the ball at any point effectively. We've seen he can do both at any point. He can give you a 350-yard game, or he can give you a 100-something yard rushing game, you know, with multiple touchdowns on either side. This is a running back room where Kenneth Gainwell and Miles Sanders can go off for nearly 200 yards together and still have Boston Scott come in and add like about 30, you know. This is a team where Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, healthy, could both go off for 100 at any point, with Dallas Goedert giving you a solid anywhere between 50 and 70 yards and being an absolute safety net and almost guaranteed first down on like a third and short, second and short, you know, even a fourth. Oh, don't even get me started on fourth and short. You get them on a 4th and 1, 4th and short, especially at the goal line. You're not stopping this team. Jalen Hurts is almost guaranteed to get any quarterback sneak because that guy squats like 600. No other quarterback in the league is doing it. And so, do the Niners have pieces? Yes, we just saw George Kittle go off for 95 yards on only 5 catches. Debo at any point can explode. Christian McCaffrey can at any point explode. But they stopped Saquon, you know. They were able to stop Saquon. And it's not just the Giants game, you know. Look throughout this season. Look at the game. Look at the game against the Titans. Look at the game against the Titans. They shut down Derrick Henry for only 30 yards that game. Look at the game against the Colts. Obviously, he was kind of struggling this season, but Jonathan Taylor, never mind. That's not, sorry. I totally forgot Jonathan Taylor actually did these things. My bad. But you look at, what's another game I want to see? You look at the first win against Dallas, their receivers, for the most part. There was CeeDee Lamb who went off for 68. The rest of the receivers, nothing, you know. What other game could... The Vikings game, obviously. Yes, it was early in the season, but they shut down Justin Jefferson. They shut down Dalvin Cook. You know, and I know it seems like I'm picking and choosing because there's also other games where, yes, they admittedly weren't able to stop the run. They weren't able to do well with stopping receivers. I'm not saying this is going to be an easy win for this Eagles team, but they just have too much talent. And I mentioned the Super Bowl thing for the Bills. This is the Eagles' like one big shot at the Super Bowl and another title. Could they do it in the next couple of seasons? Yes, but the issue is they won't have the level of talent that they have this year because cap and money is going to be an issue in the future years once you re-sign or extend Jalen Hurts and potentially sign Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, you know? And plus, people are going to get older. This could be Jason Kelsey's last year. This could be Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham's last year, potentially, you know? Lane Johnson isn't getting any younger, you know. Basically, you know, this window of opportunity is right now, and they can't afford to give that up. So I think they're just playing with a lot more fire than San Francisco is. San Francisco, they could, when healthy, they could go, you know, and make this run at any point with, you know, any decent quarterback who fits well into their system, you know. But I think this Eagles team kind of sees that like, this is our one shot while we're still playing with house money, or we're still playing with a lot of these guys, you know. And again, I'm talking about re-signing some of these guys. Who's to say Chauncey Gardner-Johnson even re-signs? Who's to say we make this trade, get a Super Bowl out of it, you know, just potentially we get a Super Bowl out of it, and he leaves for more money, you know? And that's all we got out of him was a Super Bowl, you know? But yeah, that's kind of the way I'm seeing it. There's going to, like, we're going to be losing a lot of talent out there this year. And that's why I think, you know, we're just going to go all out, like, guns blazing. You know, it could be a close one. It could be a game, like I said, a trap game, where the Eagles fall into a lot of traps. They let the Niners go off for a lot of screen plays. They the running game doesn't just click immediately, or the passing game is, they're struggling, you know. But I think this is their year to make that Super Bowl again, you know. And will they win the Super Bowl if they get to that point? I don't know. That's thinking too far ahead, and I gotta wait to see, you know, who's on the other side. Only looking ahead, I think they got this, man. I think they got this with San Francisco. I don't want to be too optimistic with my Philly teams because we've seen what they've done to me time and time again, you know. But I just feel like this is their time, you know. If it isn't, then oh well, move on to the next season. But I truly believe in my heart that come later this week, we will see them and hopefully see a masterclass game against the Niners, you know, and hopefully end this narrative that they can't come up against the big teams because they have like an 8-1 record or something like that against teams with a winning record, you know. But with that being said, thank you all for joining for this episode of Game Day. And as always, remember, many things in this life may seem impossible, but if you fight for your dreams will fight for you.